Hey, good afternoon, Mitch. How you doing?
Hey, good afternoon, David. How are you?
I'm fine. How things are going on your side? Where are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm in my hotel in Antwerp at the moment. I've been at the Devox conference, Devox Belgium, for the past 2.5 days. Had the pleasure to speak there as well. It was great. You know what the organizers of Devox make you for speaking there? They uh, they make you fat. They give you a big box of chocolates. So I'm gonna be munching on those for a while.
Yeah. Well, next time I will try to be with you there.
That would be great. I'm If there's a conference in South Europe, count me in. Some sun and some great
Yeah,
weather. That would be
I will.
great.
I will share with you. That there are quite a few. So, but maybe we are not going to have chocolates here.
They might melt in your climate,
Yeah,
right?
but we
So,
have some other things that could be interesting too. So and
like,
tasty. I don't know. We have the churrasco conf, which basically gives you meat, grilled meat. We have lechazo conf. It's actually quite funny because we have several different conferences that are named after the typical food or the typical dishes from the area. So it's uh,
okay,
it's quite interesting to go there and try to taste different things.
all right, yeah, looking forward to that.
Well, the idea is that I was mentioning this because even if we are going to be not in our homes or like you are this week, we are committed to try to keep the pace or the regularity on doing this live stream every 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, we are. So, to be perfectly candid with you, David, I don't even own a home anymore. I'm what I would like to call voluntarily homeless. I sold my house on Monday, and yeah, I'll be in Belgium this week, Morocco next week, and then I'll be in Gran Canaria for 2 months. So next time you see me streaming, it's probably from the beach with a nice cocktail.
Wow,
Um,
that's
so
you
yeah,
need
really
to
looking
share
forward.
that. See, so if you are starting to live a digital nomad life, you should try to share your experiences.
Yeah, if people are interested in something like that, I do have my personal blog called codedrivenmitch.net. I've definitely noticed that people are more interested in the personal life stuff than the technical stuff. So if you would like an update on the live stream, like how the digital nomad life is, just first like and subscribe, and then put a comment because we like to handle the feedback, right, David?
Yeah,
And I think we had some. Can you share it with us?
actually, yes. Because as we told you last week during our first episode, we are starting this just to have some fun, to share some time, some coding time with all of you. And this is something that we are going to, we don't have a clear vision of where we want to do several different things, but of course you will be more than welcome to share with you your feedback with us. And actually we have uh, some comments here from last week, from the episode last week, in which I'm trying to do a little bit of zoom here. Um, and actually, this is something that we are going to keep in mind, or we could do something with this, right, Mitchell?
Yeah, we're definitely gonna go through all the feedback and talk to it on the stream. If you didn't understand something previously during the stream, please reach out like here and let us know and we'll go deeper into the topic. Actually, I want to do more short video top YouTube videos on certain concepts with domain driven design, CQRS and event sourcing, and these questions actually can inspire us to create the right content for other people as well.
Exactly. So, uh, in order to reply uh, to, I cannot even pronounce this name, Shimen or Smin or
Ishmin?
with
Yeah.
Smin. Sorry for the mispronunciation, but uh, actually, we are going to try to maybe in the future invite someone that could, for example, guide us to do another module in Python and try to connect to our application as we are building it. So please keep coming all these ideas. Please keep making your suggestions and keep them coming in because we will take them into account. So let's try to do something together. But before entering today's episode, I would love to try to do some recap of what we did in the first episode.
Yeah, that would be great. Go ahead.
So basically, what we basically do is we started this conference tracker, and let's try to. We are not intending to use too many slides here, but actually for next session we will try to do some clipping or extract some clips from the actual video recording, which will be probably more useful for you. But let me quickly recap what we did last week. First, we started by creating a new multi-module Maven project. We started by creating the core project with basically a POM packaging. Then we moved to create an internal module. This is going to be our only and unique module for now, but we will probably split it into different microservices or modules or whatever. But for now, this is going to be our service module, our main project. And the next thing that we need to do is we decided to use three main technologies. The first one is we are going to try to learn some Kotlin, or I am going to try to learn some Kotlin, thanks to Mitchell. So we added the dependencies on our main POM project for in order to for Kotlin to work. What we did in this case is we just used IntelliJ, and by creating the first Kotlin file or Kotlin class, we have all these configuration added automatically by IntelliJ to our POM. So if you are not using IntelliJ, this is actually the things that you should add to your POM. In our case, it was automatically added by the IDE for us. The second thing that we need to add is a long list of configuration for the plugin in order to make the build process work properly. So it's too much code in the POM here, but I couldn't put it on the slide. It makes no sense.
Yeah. Basically, what it does is for GPA, it makes a no-arg constructor and stuff like that. And it makes GPA and Spring work with Kotlin. It's just necessary. And you can copy paste it from many different sources, including our repository.
Yeah. In any case, if you're interested, we also uploaded the source code to a new repository, and you can always check the repo from there and do exactly or see exactly what we have coded. So this is the URL. You can see it on screen, and there you will have all the configuration. So next thing that we needed to add is we are going to create a Kotlin application, but we are going to use Spring Boot. So we have to configure the dependency management in order to configure the Spring Boot version we are going to use, and create the dependency management snippet on the root POM. And once that we have done that, we had to add the Spring Boot starter web to our main module. After that, the last thing we were going to use is Axon framework, which is a framework that we create. It's an open source framework that we create in Axonic, which really helps with building these kind of applications that are prepared to scale and be modular and use CQRS, event sourcing, and DDD. So the first thing is, again, try to add the dependency management, pointing to the Axon version we were using. And then we added the Axon Spring Boot starter to our main service project. So right after creating the basic structure and bootstrapping all the dependencies that we needed, the next thing was, let's actually create our main Spring Boot application class, which is quite straightforward. This is just the code that we need in Kotlin to create a main class using a Spring Boot application. After that, if we want to start our application, because we are using Axon Framework, and Axon Framework by default will try to look for an Axon server, which is basically a message broker and a message router for routing all the messages that we are going to send between our different modules and components. So the next thing we did is we just went to the developer portal, to Axonic developer portal, and downloaded the Axon server. And after downloading the Axon server, the only thing that we needed is just unzip the Axon server and start the Axon server with as a regular Java application. You can also run Axon server from a Docker container, so it's quite easy to get started with this. So right after that, the next thing we had to do is we started to model our command model, our application, and the main aggregate, the main entity that we are going to use to model our system is the concept of conference. And so we started to create a Kotlin class, which is the conference. We annotated the conference with the aggregate annotation, and we added the aggregate identifier to this conference. Next thing, we started to add some support for different actions that we wanted to support. And the first one is we are going to allow other users or applications to send the add conference command, which will result in creating a new conference in our system. So for that, we define the command, which is the message that we are going to use. And then we went to our aggregate to create the command handler, which is the code that will be executed whenever we receive an add conference command request in our system. The next thing is we created another type of message, which is the conference added event, which is basically the event that we are going to use, or the message that we are going to use to notify that we actually added a new conference to our system, so that other components or other modules will be able to react on that change. So next thing we did is on the command handler, we actually created and triggered that event as a result of validating the command, which in our case we didn't add any validation at all. So the interesting thing here is that after triggering the conference added event, the same aggregate should listen to these kind of conferences and actually react and change the conference ID, the status of our command model. So this is quite specific to how event sourcing works, and probably we can go into detail of this in this session or later on. So last thing we did is we just created a REST controller in order to offer an endpoint so that we could easily send these requests to create new commands. In order to do that, we created a REST controller, a Spring REST controller with a post mapping to the conferences that will actually get this command and actually send the command through a command gateway, which is the abstractions that Axon Framework provides us to communicate this type of request. So we tried this, and we actually were able to send a post to the conference URL with the definition of a new conference, and we saw that the conference was created, and we saw that not only because we had the proper response with the ID, but also because we were able to go to the Axon server console, which is the broker that we are using to send these messages, and we saw that an add conference command was sent and received and processed, and we also see that an event as the result of processing this command was also sent through the system. But this was probably not enough, because sometimes we need to also keep track of, for example, the list of all the conferences that we have. So in this case, the next thing that we did is we created a projection, which is basically the query model. It's a different model that we are going to use, so that we keep all the data ready in the same format that anyone or any other user or module or third-party applications will require them. If they are going to request this kind of information, what we did is we created a different model here, which is called the projection, that is going to keep the data in the right format, so that answering this kind of queries will be fast, or faster at least. So this is a kind of a different model from the command model. The command model is where we keep all the data prepared to actually react to commands, and the projection is where we keep all the information prepared to react to queries. So in this case, we just kept the list of conferences in memory, and the only thing that we did is we added an event handler to the query model, so that we could react to every event when a conference added event was triggered, so that we could react and update our internal in-memory list. So for that, we, as our last step, and in order to be able to request the list of conferences, we create a query, which is yet another type of message. And in this case, the query does not need to provide any information. And then we just created this message. For this message, we updated our projection, and we added a query handler, so that we could react to the query and just send or return the list of conferences that we keep in memory, updated based on the different conference added event that we have received previously. And finally, the last step was to create yet another endpoint on our REST controller that will react to a GET request on the conference URL. And for this, the only thing that we have to do is just send the query. In this case, using not the command gateway, but the query gateway, so that we can specify first the query that we are sending and the type of response that we are expecting from that query. So this is it. This is what we did. And so we were ready to test the whole application. In this case, we also were able to send a GET request to the URL, and we got the response with the list of all conferences that were previously added. And we also were able to check on the Axon server all the commands, queries, and events that were interchanged between the different modules or the different components of our application. So that's actually what we did, and we completed a very basic functionality, but it was easy just by creating a few classes and adding the right annotations and using the right tools. Thanks to Axon Framework and Axon Server, we were able to very quickly did this in just a couple of hours. So that's more or less it, right, Mitch?
Yeah, thank you for the recap. But I think it might not be entirely clear what this command and query separation is doing right now, right? So If I can break in 1 minute to give an overview picture, I did a DevOps talk at DevOps this week, and I actually have a very useful diagram to illustrate this. So if you don't mind,
Okay.
I will share that quickly with you. I have it ready here. It's part of my reactive applications with event sourcing and service and events talk. It's actually on YouTube as well. I'll put the link in the description. What you see here, this is basically the pattern that we are using. We are separating our command and our read model in order to optimize both. So the command model is optimized for consistency, for making the right business decisions, and the query model is optimized for availability, for providing the right data at the right time at the cost of a little bit of consistency. And if you look into the CAP theorem, right, David, this X pattern actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We now need to communicate the changes from the business model to the query model, and that's where we use events. And in order to make sure that we use the right data in the future, our command model is actually based on the events. So we cannot make a mistake there. And that's basically what you see. So going to what we have done the previous time is we had a command model, and whenever you want to send a command, you dispatch a command to the command model, and it produces events into the event store. That's the aggregate part that you just saw. And then you have your query model, the list of conferences that you just saw, and that's being populated by those events asynchronously. Now, through the query gateway, you can dispatch a query to receive that information. That's basically what we done last time.
Well, the nice thing here is that we are using a nice architecture and a lot of components, and we are benefiting from that just by using Axon framework and a couple of annotations. So it's quite. It really allows us to focus on the business logic, on implementing the command model and the projections, and not in all the infrastructure code to send all these messages and to glue all the components together, right?
Yeah, correct. That was all configured out of the box. So what do you say? Shall we write some more business logic? Things
Yeah, because
that's what we developers get paid for, right?
Yeah, this is called hands-on Axon. So let's keep doing something new. What can we do today? Because we already have our model, our conference model here. So
I just saw that as well. So I have joined via Code with Me.
Yeah.
You can see me doing stuff on David's screen. Code with Me is a great thing by IntelliJ. I don't know what just happened. That was less great.
But for that, you need to trust your peer.
You need to never trust me, David. It's that's not a good thing.
No, I will always trust you.
If you go with your mouse to the red squiggly line, it gives us a very weird error, like couldn't auto-wire beans of add conference command. And in addition, if you go to the conference class, like on top, there's a yellow overlay. And that tells us something as well.
Where? Sorry?
On the conference class name,
okay.
There's an annotation. You should just hold your mouse still on the class name itself.
I was doing okay.
Yeah. So what Axon framework, whenever you are loading from events, it makes an empty aggregate instance. So it needs a no argument constructor, just like GPA does. We work in a similar way.
Yeah.
But we haven't made that. We have only made a constructor with a command of type @conference command. So we are missing our no argument constructor. In theory, this application should fail to handle any aggregate. This aggregate should fail to handle any command. But what's happening is that we added one of those Kotlin plugins that adds a no-arg constructor to this class. So what we can do to just make all the warnings go away and to make sure we don't rely on some Kotlin plugin functionality is that we can make a no-argument constructor on a class name, like I did right now. And then we will actually propagate this to the constructor of the command. So now we actually have an OAuth constructor and everyone is happy.
Oh, great. Because I also have OCD, which makes me hate when we have still some warnings popping up our code base.
I don't see any warnings anymore, so I guess we're fine now.
Yeah, perfect. So, what should we do next? I mean, we have a basic cycle in which we can add conferences and we can query the list of all conferences. But I guess that we don't just want to keep the list of all conferences. We want to do more with the conference, right?
I'm pretty sure we do. I guess you want to, as an organizer of the conference, you want to make an addition. So I guess the organizer of DevOps Belgium wants to add a 2024 edition with a new date. So
Okay.
perhaps we should do something around that.
Well, maybe then we need to create another command, I would say, because actually, or it should be a query. So that's probably one of the first questions that may come to the mind of anyone try to create a new message. This message should be a command or a query or an event. What's the right option to choose? And
So, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we have three types, right? You already said them. It's commands, it's events, and it's queries. And queries are a request for information, so you want something out of that. Events are a fact that happened, and commands are intents to change the system. And I guess whenever you want to add a conference, you want to change the state to add a conference.
Because
So in this case, you should add a.
Yeah, because in this case, the state of our application is the list of conferences and editions. So that seems right to me. It's just a command. So we should add here a new data class, right? Which is going to be called add conference edition command. And what should be the elements of the conference?
So
Of the command, sorry.
Yeah, I think you want to target an already existing conference by its ID. So I guess you want to say, to this conference, I add this edition, right?
So, and the conference will be identified by its ID, right? So this is not the conference edition ID, but the conference ID, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And then maybe we can define the year, right? Or should we use a datetime for the date that is going to for the specific date?
You do sometimes see that people already confirm an edition, but not yet the dates. So I guess we could do both, like a year and then an actual date, which we can null, which might be nullable.
Okay, so first we are going to have the year that is going to be an int. Should be, we don't expect to live until we overflow the capacity of an int, right?
Yeah, but that should be an integer with a capital
True.
at the start.
We are using Kotlin here.
Or so int is good enough. Yeah,
Okay.
like this.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
I said it wrong.
So, and then we are going to have start date, which is going to be local date, right?
Yeah, I guess we don't need to register the time here, just the dates. So that's, yeah, good decision.
And then, is there any other thing that we need to check? Maybe we can define the conference location as something that could be optional in case, because maybe there are some conferences that have a reference or a location, or what we could do is just define the venue, the specific venue. because we define the conference location to be the city, but maybe the edition is going to add the address of the venue, right?
Yeah, that's true. I guess you have a different conference location. So that's a conference edition location.
So we add as I don't know. Maybe we could use a string for now and try to use that as the same string you will use on the Google Maps with all the information separated by commas.
I'm not sure. I would rather have it explicitly in my domain model what options there are.
Okay, so we are going to call this like event venue, for example. Let's try to avoid the word event, right?
Well, the conferences are events, but
Yeah, but then we will send some other events in our application, and probably people are going to be a little bit confused about which type of events are we using.
all right.
Okay, so I need to define the venue location. Extract separate file. Now, here we are going to define, and then this is going to be defined by. And oh, by the way, should this be mandatory? The venue location?
I guess
No,
it
because
can be TBD. So
yeah. Or if we are speaking about online conferences, this is not going to be. They are not going to have a location. So okay, let's use name of the location, the theater, the whatever, and then let's define the specific address, right?
right.
Should we add here the conference location, or we can simplify?
Sorry.
So
But the conference location is already defined in the conference itself. It doesn't. So that duplication is not really necessary, I believe.
Okay. Are we good?
Yeah. I'm not allowed to format your code. Can you format it because the spacing between the semicolons? Yeah, better, much better.
Okay. By the way, what I use is just Command Alt L, which is the
Yes, but I'm not allowed to because I'm only in code with me.
Okay.
I am allowed to
No,
do this.
I was sharing the shortcut for people watching us in case they didn't know. Okay, so are we good? Well, the next thing probably we need to do is just add the support to our model to handle these kind of commands, right?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, following the same steps that we did last time, the only thing that we need to do is just define a command handler. Previously, what we did is actually we use a constructor because the command that we were using for that, the add conference command, was supposed to create the actual conference, right? So, but in this case, I guess that we are going to need to use a function, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So, we are going to use the new edition function, and then we are going to use to receive the command, and this is called conference edition command. So again, as we did last time, we are going just to validate the command here and trigger the corresponding event.
Yeah. I don't think we have many validations at the moment, though, right?
No, not yet. Which, by the way, there is something that keeps popping in my mind. How are we going to, or how we can make sure that, because this is going to be invoked, this method is going to be invoked on the on a specific instance of our conference, right? And the
Yeah.
instance means that we are, because we don't want to receive the add conference edition command for all the conference instance that we have in our system. We just want to receive this command on the conference that has the conference ID similar to the ID that we have on our command. How
Yeah.
can we guarantee that?
Well, I kind of wanted to show people that this would fail and then tell them why.
Okay.
But you you jumped the gun.
Then
So when
then let's go ahead.
no, let's fix
No,
it now. Now I want to
no,
fix
no,
this.
no,
So
no, because I agree with you. Maybe it's going to be better because that way we will be showing the error, and that will also link to uh, to to this specific thing.
yeah,
Sometimes you learn more by watching the errors than by actually knowing how to do the right thing. Okay,
true.
so we need to trigger the corresponding event. So that means that we are going to need another event, right?
Yeah. So let's do that. I'm already copy pasting some stuff here.
Okay,
Conference edition edit event.
perfect.
And I guess the only thing we need now is an edition ID as well
Mm-hmm.
to give that an ID, because later we might want to change stuff of this entity within the root aggregate, right? So we might change something on the edition and we need to know which edition to change. So the edition itself also needs an ID.
Okay.
But
So,
because I was thinking about maybe we could use the year as an ID, but there might be conferences that have multiple editions per year, right?
exactly. There are a few conferences that are running, for example, spring edition and autumn edition. So,
All right. So yeah, but that's for example, J Spring and J Fall in the Netherlands has that, but they are two separate conferences.
yeah, but for example, not right now, but for example, in during the pandemic, for example, Cold Motion had two editions, at least here in Spain, and they had the spring edition and autumn edition. So,
Okay.
and they were happening on the same country twice a year.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
think it's good
So
to be able to refer to the edition by an ID.
yeah.
So
So now we have this event, right? But it might be more fun to implement multiple things. Nah, okay. Let's do it step by step. So we have the event. Let's go.
so should we use the aggregate lifecycle to apply the new conference edition added event, which needs to define the conference ID, which is conference ID. Also, the edition ID. In order to do that, we need to create the edition ID here, and we are going to use the other way that you showed me last time to string.
Yeah. Just don't
No,
you think that UUIDs are ridiculously long um, for just that a conference edition? Like the collision chance if you just take a small part is very small. So you know what I often like to do in these cases? Watch me on your screen. I split it and then I take the first part. So
okay,
now we have a shorter part of that UUID, which is still totally random, but a little bit more short.
okay. And this time, and this way, we will be saving a little bit of bytes on our messaging, right?
Yeah, but also in your URL. So if you often you want to target you want the IDs to be reflected in the URL of your browser in your app, and then having first a UUID for the conference and then a UUID for the conference edition. That is 60. That's 72 characters just for identifying which edition, which is already quite special. So, yeah.
Well, but if you this seems right to me. The only thing that I will complain if you have just proposed me to use an integer, because that's a security risk, So try not to use. I'm speaking for the rest of people watching us. Don't try to use integer identifiers, because that will expose, or that will make people try to figure out some IDs and try to just invoke your services and endpoints.
Yeah. So if you know the calls of one ID, you're gonna enumerate the IDs until you find the leak. Yeah.
Okay, so let's do this with addition ID. This is the second thing that we need, and then we need. I don't remember the next thing that we need to trigger: the year, the start date, and venue, which is information that is coming from the command, then year, command start date, and command which was venue, right?
Yeah.
Again, you showed me. That's what I was going to do.
Okay. Sorry, I had to scratch that itch.
Perfect. Are we good?
Yeah, so now we need to save some state, right?
Yeah.
So yes and no. What we often recommend from Axonic is that you want as little in your aggregate as possible to validate your business rules. So in this case, we don't have a command yet to do anything with that conference edition. So why would you save state in your aggregate to validate that logic that's not there? So are we going to add a command that will add logic? Will we, for example, can we update the start date of the conference?
Yeah.
Shall we make a command for that?
Yeah, probably.
Or you want to make the state first? Is it itching?
Whatever you want. So we just, because, I mean, let's go for the command, because in this case, we will show that actually you just need to keep the state on the aggregate only when you need it, right?
Yeah.
So
let's add the ability to add a start date to a conference.
Okay. So then we need another command that is going to set conference edition start date, right? Command. I don't know if we can make it shorter.
Let me copy something in that I took from the previous event. So the conference ID and the edition ID. So what is really important here is that the command reflects what the business says. And what do we say as a business? Do we schedule a conference edition, for example?
Yeah.
So that whenever you schedule it, you set the start date and maybe other things as well in the future. And that is one action from the business point of view.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that we do something like this, and that for now we only set a start date.
Yeah. Makes sense. So we need then the start date, right?
Yeah, correct.
And now the local date is going to be required.
Exactly. So now we have the screen open anyway. Let's go into it. Normally, we would need to say that this command contains an attribute that targets a certain aggregate. In our case, the aggregate is the conference. So
Okay.
what we will do is we set target aggregate identifier on one of the attributes. And so Axon knows which aggregate to load. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm not going to set it on the second.
Okay.
And then we can see that it will work with and won't work without, and also what error we will get.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah? Do you think that's a fun experiment?
Yeah. So do we need to define the command handler, or do we want to keep it without command handler? That will also help us to define another different error. Is if we try to send a command and there's no one defined, there's no command handler defined in our system.
Sure,
So,
let's do that. So let's make some endpoints, I guess.
yeah,
Right?
let's go for the REST controller, and then let's define a post mapping, which is going to be on the conference, and let's add some conference. No, let's try to, conference ID. And then the post should be on the edition, right?
Yeah, correct.
And then let's create the function, define edition, which is going to get the request in the request body command.
Yeah, so this request body now already contains the aggregate identifier.
Yeah.
So I guess it would be better to just remove the conference ID from the URL for now. We can also make a data transfer object to capture the request and then put it into the command, but we can do that later.
Yeah. Well, I will feel more comfortable with that, but let's do that later. Okay,
True.
so this is going to be the how we call it, conference edition command, and basically that's it. We need to define the result. Completable future of let's try to return the same way that we did with the conference. Let's try to return the ID of the conference edition, right?
Yeah, let's do that.
So then the only thing that we need to do here is create a command gateway and send the command that we have received, right? And then, this does not work. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, cool.
Right.
So let's start it up and do a REST call.
Let me check, because I guess that we need Axon server started.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Yeah, but remember that we are going to start Axon server by just simply using java./jar Axon server.jar. This is going to start our server, and once that we see here the ports, we will be ready to start our application. Actually, we can try to start our application before, because it will try to connect, right? Did I?
If your computer can handle that load.
I think it can. Well, it's complaining because Axon server is not there yet. It's trying to reconnect. Let's check how it's perfect. Now it's started. Now, successfully connected to Axon server, and just we can also use HTTP localhost 8024 to see that we have our application connected to our server.
Yeah.
So, and now if we click here, we will see that we also have the add conference edition command registered in our system, right?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so let's create a request. Let's just create the conference. The conference is already there. If we click on the list of conferences, the list of conferences is here. And then we should create another post. Wait, did I save? Okay, this is the ID. And then let's try to find yet another post. Sorry, thank you. 8080 conference issue, in which we need to define the content type as application JSON, and then let's define the structure of our command, which is this one. Never remember how I can set the multiple cursors on IntelliJ.
Alt and drag.
Alt and drag. Oh, So let's Alt. No. Conference ID. Sorry. Can we?
Yeah, so I would say let's leave it on null for now. We have a command coming up to set the date.
Okay.
We haven't scheduled it yet. It will be there.
Perfect. So if I send this post, response body is empty.
Yeah, because we haven't actually returned anything from the command handler.
Oh, let me check that.
Yeah, so in the command handler, if we go to the aggregate,
yeah,
then we will see that we have no return value here. So what we can do is return the edition ID, and Axon Framework will communicate that ID back as the result of your command. For creating the aggregate, it already did that automatically. For any create command using a constructor command handler, it will return the identifier.
Okay. So now that we have that defined, we will see. Let's restart the application. And then if I go to the request, now that we have
see a nice short identifier.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Okay, so next thing is let's try to define the conference REST endpoint to define the to schedule the edition.
Yeah, we already have a command for that, right? So we just have to make the endpoint.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to be post mapping conference edition, and then
schedule.
Schedule. Yeah. And then we are going to schedule request body, schedule get conference edition command. Also, let's return the computable feature of string. And then let's send the command through the command gateway to our command controller. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
So let's try to restart again this, because it could be great if we could have some kind of feature in Axon framework that allows us to not having to restart the application every time that we have a change, right?
Sorry, can you reiterate that?
That it could be great to have some kind of feature that does not force us to restart the application every time that we make a change on Axon framework, right?
Yeah, that would be awesome, and it's coming in Axon Framework 4.9. Currently, so Spring Boot DevTools has been out there for a long time, but we have also been out there for a long time, and the way we did it is not the way it should be done anymore. So we're fixing that in 4.9.
Okay,
Currently, Axon Framework doesn't play nicely with Spring Boot DevTools.
but it will in
It will. It will.
in a version
It's
that
already in main, and it will be released quite soon.
Yeah, great to know that.
Right. If you go to the HTTP file, I have prepared a request for you.
Okay, perfect. So this is
You just need to fill in the edition ID because I didn't exactly remember it.
Yeah, and I have. Where do I have it? It's on the services, right? And then I need to remove this. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. Oh, I hate Jason for not allowing dangling commas. Please, Jason, fix your stuff.
Do as Kotlin, right?
Yeah, do as Kotlin.
Okay, let's send the message. Oh,
well, 500. What does the application log say?
Well, I'm getting an error that says no handler for command, and it's specifying that we have not defined the handler for the scheduled conference edition command.
Now you demystified that message completely. So
yeah, but
we have to build some state and a command handler.
If I go to the Axon server console, oh right, there is no command for that, no handler for that command defined here, right? So let's try to solve that, and then we need to define the command handler here, right?
Well, no.
Oops.
I don't think you want that. So you could, when we were in the first session, we had this diagram, right? And there is an 1-to-n relationship between conferences and editions. And these conference editions have their own life cycle.
Yeah.
So what makes sense is to make each edition its own entity. And I guess we can do that. And then once we have this entity in place, now commands can target that entity instead of the general aggregate. And Axon Framework will actually locate the right entity based on the name, on the identifier of that entity within the aggregate, and execute it there.
Okay, I was trying to find the diagram, but it seems like it's not where I thought it would be. Yeah, it's true. So we define a different entity to represent the conference and conference edition. So
so let's make a conference edition class.
Okay. Conference edition. Perfect.
So instead of an aggregate identifier, an aggregate member, as we call it, an entity has an entity identifier. So this one we can initialize in the constructor directly because we'll construct it from the aggregate itself. It doesn't have a command handler as a constructor. So we can actually include it there immediately, yes.
which and will be this the conference.
The addition identifier, the addition ID is what we have called it so far.
Edition ID.
And that's important, and I'll show you in a moment why.
Okay. So we mark this as an aggregate too, or that's only for the main thing or the main?
That's only for the main thing, because the aggregate annotation is actually not really a framework annotation, but a Spring annotation that makes the aggregate a kind of bean with a scope lifecycle. So in this case, we don't need that because we'll be constructing it ourselves.
Perfect. Do we need more information? Then maybe we need to define the start date, right?
Yeah, we have the start date. But it doesn't need to be late in it, right? Because it's nullable. It doesn't need to be late in it.
Okay. So let's define that the start date, date, local date time, local date.
Yeah, a local date and question mark. And then you can say is null as a starter. But making it this kind of property is probably not going to help us very much because the start date is mutable. So that's correct. We have the var.
Mm-hmm.
But we always know a value because it's both in the create command as in the update command. So we can move this thing to the constructor like this.
Okay.
And whoa, what did I do? Now we can define the command handler in this class and write the logic. So if you, well, let's do that.
Command handler, and then we are define the function that is going to, or should it be the, because this was going to be the command handler for the schedule. Yeah. Command. So
so personally, I'm always lazy and I call every method handle. Okay. And then because you have method overloading in Java, it doesn't really matter because the command as a parameter already defines what kind of method it is.
Command. Oh, sorry. Again, my Java side was kicking.
Based on the past few minutes, I was gonna say, "Hey, you're getting better at Kotlin," and then you do this, David. David, why do you let me down?
There. Okay, so here, what we need to do again. First, let's try to import.
I think it was conference edition.
Conference, yeah. Okay, so again, we need to validate here. Probably at some point I won't add the comments anymore, but for now. And then we need to trigger the event.
I already created the event for you, David. It's called the Conference Edition Scheduled event.
Okay, so what we need to do is do the aggregate lifecycle and then apply conference. Can you repeat the name?
Conference Edition Scheduled event.
Conference Edition Scheduled event. And then I need to define conference ID, which is coming on the command conference ID, the command edition ID, and then start date. And then.
Yeah, nice.
That's it, right?
Yeah, correct. So what I really like my command handlers to be is idempotent. So now we always apply an event, even if nothing changed, right? If the start date is already set to the same value we had, we still apply an event, which is totally unnecessary because nothing changed.
Okay.
So in this case, what I like to do is, if this is one of those validations you can do, right? If command.startDate is not equal to the start date currently in this entity, then we apply the event. So now this is also a kind of validation to do, to see if there are any changes or not.
Perfect.
And this is how we use state of our aggregate as well. And now it's really important we have that state. But we don't have that state yet when we have scheduled the addition, right? So we need an event sourcing handler.
Okay, then let's define the event sourcing handler here, right?
Yeah.
And then let's define the event, and then conference edition scheduled event. And in this case, we don't need to validate the event, right? Because the event has already happened.
Yeah, the event is a fact.
Okay, so then let's assign the start date from what the event says result. Right.
No semicolons, David. What are you doing to me?
Again. Again.
I saw it before, but you got rid of it fast enough.
Yeah, it's muscle memory.
All right, so this is really nice, right? But this entity will work, but it hasn't been added to the aggregate yet. So now we need to add it to the aggregate whenever a conference edition was added. So let's build some state here. So what the concept that Axon framework has is something called aggregate members. You can define a list or a map of entities within an aggregate, and then Axon framework will discover the command and event sourcing handlers in there. Okay. So David, would you be so kind to create for us a map of conferences with a string as a key and the conference edition as a value?
Okay, so for that, I'm going to see how we did something similar in the
and if you want to, I can show you as well.
Let me guess. I guess that we are going to have some kind of and this is going to be let's call editions. And
perfect.
Then we are going to assign like a mutable map of.
Holy, you're good, David.
But the ID is what is good. Okay, mutable map of, and then I need to create a pair.
No. Okay, so this part I will show you. It's just like Java. You have generics.
Okay.
So you have the diamond operator, and now we'll just type string, comma, conference edition. Okay. And now we have a map of a string to conference edition. And we are almost there. So Axon framework is not magic, and we need some annotations to know what is happening. So we have an aggregate member annotation, which tells Axon framework like, hey, these are the aggregate members. Please discover in the subclasses of the list or the map which command handlers are there and which event sourcing handlers are there. And what's now really important is that we also specify an event forwarding mode. Let me show you that. So this is the event forwarding mode. And by default, whenever there's a matching event sourcing handler, the event sourcing handler of all editions is now called, even though we say a specific edition ID.
Okay.
So we can do a forward matching instances. And this will only this will only forward events to the matching instance. And it will do that based on the property. So in the conference edition, we have an edition ID. If we annotate that property using @entity_ID, now Axon framework will match incoming commands that have a command handler in an entity based on the edition ID property and match it to this field of all the classes. And it can be any accessor.
Okay.
So now we need an event sourcing handler for when let's try that call again, David.
Okay, but let me...
Because now we don't have an event sourcing handler that creates the...
yeah. Yeah, because we are not actually changing the state here yet, right?
Yeah, we've just defined the event and command handlers.
So do you want me to run it and see what happens?
Yeah, I do. I like watching things burn.
Let's then open the request and let's try to define the schedule for this edition that we created before. Okay,
Yeah,
we are
500.
still a 500, which is basically the same that we had before, but now the message is a little bit different. It's saying that it's not complaining that we don't have a command handler. It's complaining that the command is invalid.
It does not identify the target aggregate. That's what I've been telling you before, David. Did you forget the target aggregate identifier annotation?
Okay, let's see on the command. On the command for the schedule conference edition command, we are missing this, right? The same thing that we did on the conference edition command. That means that we did not provide any method for Axon framework to identify which is the property that that Axon framework should look at to match to find the right instance handler, right?
Correct. We do a lot of magic, but not that kind of magic. So let's retry.
Okay, let's restart this. And if you are watching this when Axon Framework 4.9 has already been released, remember that probably you can skip the restarting the method.
Yeah, then you can just Control Shift F9 on Windows, and on Mac it probably uses the command key to compile and restart automatically.
Okay, now
you didn't restart it yet, David. You only said you were gonna restart it. Don't lie to me.
Stop and rerun. I thought I did, but maybe I got distracted to try to explain how we could improve it.
You got distracted by passion.
Yeah. I was already thinking that we had 4.9. Okay. Let's then try to rerun the request. And whoops, again.
So what does it say now? It says aggregate cannot handle command.
Yeah. As there is no entity instance within the aggregate to forward to it.
Yeah.
So in this case, what happened is that Axon Framework has actually found the main aggregate, which is the conference. But then when these forward matching instances was trying to find the right aggregate member, he couldn't find it, right?
Well, not completely, because for commands, the event forwarding mode doesn't apply. So for commands, it always targets one entity, but it is based on that entity ID annotation, and it couldn't find any in that map.
Because we haven't put any addition in the map.
No, so let's do that.
Okay, for that we need an event sourcing handler to react on the fact that we have received an event specifying that the conference edition was scheduled, right? Or no, it's not.
Oh yeah, conference edition added.
Yeah. The conference edition added event. So in this case, what we have to do is we need to add to the how it was called,
to the additions,
right? Additions.
It's a map, so put, yeah.
And for the key, we need to use the event edition ID, and as the value, just a new conference edition, which will have the edition ID and the event.
No, the event.edition ID and the event.start date.
Oh, sorry, true. Event.edition ID, event.start date in case it has some value. I was about to use the semicolon, but I didn't this time.
So there's one thing that might be a little bit easier in Kotlin. I'm going to show you. Watch me do some magic, right? We can just use assignment like it was an array in JavaScript. We basically say of this map, we assign to this to this key, we assign this value.
So maps works as arrays or some kind of arrays in Kotlin.
Yeah, so yeah, like objects in JavaScript, basically.
Yeah, it's much more convenient. I agree. Okay, should we restart and see if our problem disappear finally?
Let's try that.
Yeah. There we go. So let's again. Now
hey, we have a 200.
Yeah, that means that we finally had all the editions, right? Defined.
Yeah. Let's see what happened in the event store. Did it add the event?
Yeah. Let's find this the events and let's look for all the events. And then I can see here a conference edition scheduled event that was triggered with the conference ID, the edition ID, and the start date that we propose.
Did you know the start date is my 30th birthday?
Oh,
I'm going to get hit by that train pretty soon.
Yeah, I will.
So because of the validation we built and the event sourcing handler that updates that value in the command, now next time this command will be executed with the same value, we should not see a new event, right?
Yep.
So let's try that out.
Okay, perfect. So before that, let me check the number of commands that we have sent in this time. Since last time we started the module, we have sent one schedule conference edition command, right?
Yeah.
So if we post this same URL again, that will mean that we have two scheduled conference edition commands issued, right?
Yeah. But we should only see one event. And we don't.
No. Yeah, it's...
Oh, we see only one event. Yeah.
That's because that's the conference edition added event.
Yeah. So the event sourcing handler works as advertised.
Yeah. Perfect.
Right. So with that, I think we've reached the end of today's live stream, right, David? Because we were aiming to do it for about an hour. Last time was 2 hours, which was a little bit too long in our experience. So we're going to try to aim for 1 hour and might go a little bit into overtime if we run out of time.
Yeah. But in any case, just as we were saying at the beginning of the live stream, just share this kind of feedback with us. And actually what we found out is by looking at the Google YouTube analytics is that most of the people were watching around an hour. So if you just share with us any kind of feedback that you could think will improve the live streaming and will make you enjoy it more.
Yeah. All right. So with that, with the command handling and the aggregate entity members expanded, I think we've reached a nice little point past the hour. So we should, I think we should wish everyone a very nice weekend. Make sure to watch a lot of the Devox talks because they have been great. I've been learning a lot this week. And I think they are already online. These people from Devox are insane. Like, I had my talk at like 12 noon, and all the talks of the day were online by like 9 p.m. It's insanity. They are so professional.
Yeah. And there is a lot of interesting content coming out of the conference. So
A lot of smart people. Yeah.
Okay, in the meantime, see you in a couple of weeks. And if you want us to tackle any other problems, just share with us.
All right. Have a nice weekend, everyone. Goodbye.
Have a nice weekend. Bye.